Chapter 589 Sanshi trapped. The dispersed clouds drifted over from the distance, and the sky was covered once more with dreamlike colors. He had her arms around her amid the clouds and mist, and she was leaning into him. I really thought I was going to lose you again, Wutong. Do you know that? That feeling almost made me go insane. From today onward, I will give you my soul and my spirit, along with all the good, the bad, my weakness, and all my bad habits. They are very annoying, but there's only one good thing about them all, my love for you. You're such a fool. If not for Titan beckoning, they would probably have sat in the clouds until the end of time, but they had to return to reality in the end, and they returned to Clear Sky Castle. Everything seemed different in Hua Yuao's eyes, and the third time seemed to be the charm, as Clear Sky Castle's ominousness had ceased. He felt like extreme sorrow had turned into overwhelming joy. Tang Wutong blushed when she glanced at Nui Tian and Titan's amused eyes, and she pulled Hua Yuao away and ran away. Clear Sky Castle's food was a little drab, but it was delicious in the two lovebirds' mouths. They had a sumptuous feast, and only then did Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong think about what had happened amid their pulsating love. Our martial souls can fuse again, and we can use Haodong power once more. What happened? I could clearly feel that you were sucking me dry. Why has my cultivation not dropped, but increased instead? I can feel that I should be a transcendent Douluo, and you're about the same, too. Furthermore, we both have two soul cores now. Hua Yuao asked Tang Wutong a little curiously as she lay in his arms. Tang Wutong shook her head. I don't know what happened, either. Everything was already like this when I woke up. Uncle Titan said that you healed me through some secret technique, and I remember him saying that our martial soul and soul power levels have become identical after I obtained my second soul core. Afterwards, my soul power fed back into your body and formed Haodong power, and it began cultivating by itself. The Haodong power circulated between us for 9 days, and then we became like this. 9 days? We've been cultivating together for 9 days? Hua Yuao asked in shock. Tang Wutong nodded and said, Uncle Titan said that you've taken me back for almost a month. Are you in a hurry to go back? If you are, let's go right now. Hua Yuao hugged her tightly and said, No, I'm not in any hurry. I already made up my mind before I came out, and I told everyone that I might not return. I've helped the Academy repel the Sun Moon Empire's army, and I fixed Sister Shadow. The Academy probably won't need me for the time being. Hua Yuao buried his head into Tang Wutong's shoulders, and he truly enjoyed this feeling. Tang Wutong was well again, and even if he had to live life all over again, he was willing to forget everything that had happened as long as he could live with her for eternity within Clear Sky Castle. He wouldn't care about all the chaos in the outside world anymore. Tang Wutong smiled as she caressed his hair. We can face anything blissfully as long as we're together. We cannot truly be here forever in peace, because there are still things that we cannot let go of. Humans aren't meant to live their lives just for themselves. You've always been living for others, but do you know how many people will worry about you when you're not around? And how many people will worry about us? We have to return to the world that we belong to in the end. At least, we cannot run away or escape before the dust settles. Nobody can hurt us now, and we are gradually gaining the ability to change the world. Since that's the case, we no longer have any reason to shun our responsibilities. The Academy and the Tang Sect need our protection. Furthermore, there is still something that you've yet to fulfill. Hua Yuao trembled as he looked up at Tang Wutong, and their gazes met. Of course, he knew what Tang Wutong was referring to. Even though she kept telling him to let this go, could he really do that? That wasn't possible. At least, that wasn't possible for now. He didn't just need time. More importantly, he had to face it. Hua Yuao took a deep breath as he nodded gently and said, You're right. Since we can't shy away, then let us face the world. Perhaps our minds can truly face everything peacefully after all that we've been through. But we're not leaving today, because we still have to stay in this bliss for another day. We won't have to think about anything, and I want to just accompany you like this to watch the sunrise and the sunset. I want to accompany you to watch the drifting clouds and floating mist. Okay. They were just sitting down together on Tang Wutong's bed. Hua Yuao didn't do anything, and they were just leaning against each other, and they barely even spoke. They were just admiring the beautiful scenery outside the window, listening to each other's heartbeats, and breathing each other in. They were just sitting there quietly, and in this moment, there was only bliss in their hearts. A new day had begun, and there was morning dew all around. Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong enjoyed some warm soup and had some simple food, as happiness and bliss still permeated their hearts. They were truly different this time, as both their bodies and their souls had sublimated. Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong's fatigue, pain, and responsibility that they had accumulated for a long time seemed to have been cleansed over this month, and their eyes had become much clearer and brighter than before. Uncle Nui Tian, Uncle Titan, we're leaving. Hua Yuao stood in front of the Clear Sky Sect's 2 leaders as he knelt in front of them. Even though he didn't know how he and Tang Wutong had managed to recover, or how his strength had improved, he knew that what had happened was closely related to these 2 sect leaders, who were cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Nui Tian smiled faintly and said, Go. The 2 of you possess the strength to dominate the entire continent now. There are people who can defeat the 2 of you, but as long as you don't leave each other's side, almost nobody in the world can destroy you. Take care of Wutong. Otherwise, I'll whack you. Yes. Hua Yuao answered respectfully. Titan pouted a little as he said, You're no fun at all. Go, go. Wutong, my good child, come back and see your uncle if you have time. Tang Wutong stepped forward and gave Titan and Nui Tian a bear hug. Her eyes were turning red as she soared into the sky with Hua Yuao, and they held hands as they flew into the distance. Nui Tian's expression seemed very liberated as he watched them leave. We have basically completed our task, and we can return. Titan nodded. Yes, it's time to return. Hua Yuao and Tang Wutong flew through the air, and the air seemed like soldiers who were obeying their commands as they propelled them forward like rockets. Tang Wutong asked, Where are we heading to first? Yuao? Hua Yuao was momentarily stunned. I haven't thought about that. Tang Wutong giggled and said, That's not like you. Don't you always plan meticulously before anything? Don't you always have a million ideas? Hua Yuao thought for a moment, then said, Let's head to the Doling Empire, to Doling City. I wonder how third senior brother is doing handling things over there. More importantly, we don't know if the Sun Moon Empire is moving against Doling City. The seed that I've planted in the Sun Moon Empire's army should be enough to cause some infighting and chaos within their armies, but I don't know how much all that will develop. Tang Wutong nodded and said, Yes, let's head to Doling City. You have defeated Juzi, so the Academy and the Tang Sect will be alright for now. The Doling Empire is in the most danger. I'm not sure if third senior brother and the others can hold on. Inside Doling City, military reports were sent continuously into the royal palace's main hall. The tall, big person sitting atop the throne was none other than the Eternal Defense, Sanshi. Doling City's royal palace had just suffered a destructive attack, and they rebuilt this makeshift main hall within a short period of time. The royal palace's original location appeared as empty as ever, and there was nothing all around. The city subjects did suggest switching locations, and they mentioned that this place was ominous. However, Sanshi turned down their suggestions and said that they had to pick themselves up from where they fell. Therefore, the Doling Empire's royal palace was being rebuilt in its original location, but everything was simple and unornamented. 1 month had gone by, and Sanshi seemed very different from before. His lazy smile that appeared on his face every day was gone, to be replaced by dignity and majesty. However, he also appeared a lot older than before, even though only a month had gone by. It wasn't hard to see how much effort, blood, and sweat he had put into this. Report, Prince Regent, Dancing Cloud City has fallen. The city defense army fought to the last man so that the citizens and civilians can evacuate safely. Another piece of bad news. Sanshi's expression was calm, but his face had turned completely black. He grabbed his throne's armrest, and his knuckles turned white because he was using too much strength. Jiang Nanan was standing right beside him. She raised her hand and placed it gently on his shoulder in an attempt to console his riling emotions. Many things had transpired within the Doling Empire over the past month. News of the royal palace's destruction couldn't be completely hidden after all, and that news swiftly spread throughout the city and the lands beyond. There were many different opinions and voices about that fact. The Doling Empire was very strict about assigning territories to the royal family, but some from the royal family had branched away back in the early days. There were some who still held some kind of authority. The royal palace had been destroyed, and almost every single individual directly descended from the royal family had perished. There were some who started eyeing the throne when this post-apocalyptic news reached them, and everyone was fearful and unsettled within the empire. Several ambitious fellows quickly seemed like they were raring to make a move. Under such circumstances, Sanshi had the support of Doling Empire's subjects and soldiers as he swiftly gained control over several cities along Doling City's periphery. Furthermore, he tried to withdraw his armies as much as possible so that he could concentrate and centralize them as much as he could. Part of this army comprised the elites who had journeyed to reinforce Shrek City, and the Doling Empire's internal regions could only stabilize if Sanshi had the support of this elite army. Only then could he suppress those ambitious fellows such that they wouldn't make a move against him so easily. But how could that be easy? That elite army's commander was a reputed general of the Doling Empire, and though he had turned his army around when he received accurate intelligence, he didn't return to Doling City immediately, but temporarily stationed himself in a large southern city after entering the Doling Empire's territory. On the surface, they claimed that they wouldn't participate in a conflict within the royal family, and that they'd only accept the most outstanding member of the royal family to command them. They were clearly trying to weigh out the conflict to extract any profits that were left over. If the general had some royal blood running in his veins, perhaps the situation would have been worse. Sanshi was like a roasted pork on a spit under such circumstances, and the situation that he was facing was extremely difficult. Two of the imperial family's clans in the north had already started rebellions in the name of assisting the emperor. The Doling Empire's inner territories were empty in the first place, so these two armies began pushing toward Doling City as soon as was possible. One army began committing unspeakable misdeeds as they started killing and pillaging along the way. They murdered, stole, and robbed continuously to strengthen themselves. Sanshi's army on this side wasn't small, but because Doling City's elites had been mobilized away before this, only normal soldiers were left in the city. Their fighting strength could only match one of those rebelling armies, and it wasn't hard to imagine the kind of pressure that Sanshi was under when both armies began pushing against him at the same time. Sanshi would never hold on to his throne unreasonably, but he wouldn't give it away just like that. If he handed the throne over to someone incapable or to the wrong hands, that would spell a calamitous disaster for the entire Doling Empire. Fortunately, the Sun Moon Empire hadn't launched any invasions against the Doling Empire over the past month. Otherwise, their situation could be a lot worse. Sanshi had limited strength under his control, and he didn't have a good solution under such circumstances. He had displayed excellent capability when he first gained authority over Doling City, and he swiftly handled the situation. However, he didn't have enough reputation or influence to control the entire empire. He didn't share the same surname as the royal family after all, and he wasn't a true heir to the throne. His family didn't come forward to help him, and that was something he hadn't expected. Only his mother was here, who was a princess of the Doling Empire. Sanshi's father had declined to come forward to help him because he didn't view the Doling Empire's predicament very optimistically. Further, he couldn't risk his entire family. He was the leader of his family, so he had to consider his family's well-being. Sanshi had trouble both from the inside and the outside, so how could he not be flustered? But what could he do? He could deploy some soldiers to fight those two armies who were rebelling against him, but that would only result in his army's obliteration. The only thing he could do was to give the order for the citizens and civilians who had suffered to evacuate. At the same time, he gave the order to establish a defensive perimeter with Doling City in the center as quickly as possible. He had to defend himself against the two royal families' rebelling armies before he could negotiate with the Doling Empire's elite army. Even though that elite army was sitting it out, the Empire's subjects didn't give them any more trouble. There was a reason for them to sit this out, because the royal family was gone, and the last remaining few who had royal blood weren't even directly related. Sanshi's bloodline was considered the purest, but his surname was Shu, not Shui, which was the royal family's surname. That became a big problem. Therefore, whoever was most outstanding would inherit the highest authority under such circumstances. What the Doling Empire needed right now was an excellent leader. The elite army's commander was testing Sanshi and those two rebelling armies. Whoever emerged victorious in their conflict meant that person was strong enough to inherit the throne. The elite army's location was strategically important, and they swiftly established a defensive perimeter along the borders to prepare against the Sun Moon Empire's invasion, which could come at any time. Therefore, nobody blamed those commanders and generals, even though they didn't heed Sanshi's mobilization orders. Those generals and commanders weren't wrong in the eyes of many of the Empire's subjects. Sanshi did consider getting himself out of this mess and leaving, but could he really walk away like that? The two royal families' rebelling armies were definitely inadequate heirs, and the royal family's blood ran in Sanshi's veins after all. He didn't want to see the Doling Empire ruined at the Sun Moon Empire's hands just like that. Therefore, he decided to hold on after discussing it with his mother. Even if he had to leave in the future, he had to make sure that the Empire's internal affairs were stabilized before anything else. Now, Sanshi had dealt with all kinds of administrative matters, and even though he was a sole Douluo, he still felt spent and fatigued. His civil and military officials were gone, and the royal palace's hall immediately became as empty as ever. Those two fellows shouldn't have any powerful individuals around them. Why don't we conduct an assassination operation? We'll solve all our problems if we kill them both. Nan Kyukayo clenched her fists as she suggested to Sanshi. Nan Kyukayo had felt extremely stifled over the past few days. Everything went relatively well in the beginning, but ever since the Empire's elite army refused to reinforce the Empire's capital city, and ever since those three forces began vying for the throne, Sanshi sided being at a disadvantage. Even Doling City's civil and military officials' attitudes were starting to change. Sanshi shook his head and said, "The Doling royal family blood is already gone. We cannot cause any more bloodshed. I'm not that keen on protecting my position, but I don't think that they can do this any better than I can. The Empire is in danger, yet they've chosen to start a rebellion for the throne at a time like this. They are extremely short-sighted, and they will definitely not make excellent rulers." Nan Kyukayo snapped. "Then what should we do? Do we have to wait until their soldiers arrive at our gates? If we don't kill them, uncountable innocents will die in war. Have you not heard? Several thousand soldiers defending their city have been massacred. Why should we keep people like that alive?" Sanshi glanced at Nan Kyukayo and replied, "Assassination isn't that easy to accomplish. Those two fellows have dared to start a rebellion, and that means they must have at least one titled Douluo supporting them. Otherwise, what would they have to fight for the throne? The elite army and the Doling Empire's formidable individuals are all sitting out near the borders, and if we make a brash move and we fail, our position will deteriorate." Yi muttered under her breath, "If only Yua were here. I really didn't expect him to become so powerful. He challenged the Sun Moon Empire in a 1 versus 10 battle, and he only used 7 rounds to force the Sun Moon Empire's army to retreat. The Academy has given him a title, Eye of the Answerer, the Spirit Ice Douluo. Wutong has also been titled as the Dragon Butterfly Douluo." Sanshi heaved a sigh and said, "There's too much weight on Yua's shoulders. Eldest senior brother has told us that Wutong was heavily injured to save him, and little junior brother has disappeared with her to get her treated. We can only rely on ourselves at a time like this. Let's just wait for a little while more. The Tang Sect's Soul Engineer Legion is on the way. As long as they can reach us in time, all our problems will be resolved." "You're still too soft, Sanshi." A gentle voice rang out in this moment, and a tall and slender middle-aged lady walked out from behind him. She was wearing a luxurious dress. Even though she wasn't so young anymore, she still had her charms and elegance. She also looked quite similar to Sanshi. Yes, she was Sanshi's mother, and also the Doling Empire's princess, Shui Luncheon. "Mother, why are you outside? Are you feeling better?" Shui Luncheon had arrived in Doling City not too long ago, and when she witnessed the Doling Empire's royal palace in a pile of dust and rubble while her relatives were all dead and gone, she fainted from her grief. She only started feeling a little better over the past few days. Sanshi had asked for his mother to direct things, but judging from the situation, he had no choice but to take the lead himself. "Son, any fight for the throne will always be cruel and brutal. This is no longer a problem of how important your bloodlines are at a time like this. Those two fellows who are rebelling in the royal palace's troubling times have very thin royal blood in their veins, and the fact that they can react so quickly means that they've already had this idea for a long time. What you need to do in a situation like this is to eradicate all your problems when they first appear as quickly as possible. This girl is right. Your weakness will cause more people to die. If you can accomplish it, you have to take down their leaders and win over their soldiers. You have to stabilize and gain authority over the Empire's internal affairs as quickly as possible, and only then will the Doling Empire have a chance at survival. I've already met the minister. If you're unwilling to change your surname, that's up to you. But for the Doling Empire, for your mother, I ask that Nanan and you let the Shui family adopt your first son in the future so that he can take over the royal throne. Is that all right? As long as you agree, the capital city subjects and officials will fully support your fight against those two traitors." Shui Lunshin's sudden suggestion stunned Shu Sanshi, while Jiang Nanan blushed from embarrassment. Shui Lunshin did like her future daughter-in-law quite a lot, but Shu Sanshi and Jiang Nanan weren't officially married yet. Her comment breached the topic of having a child, so how could she not feel embarrassed? Shu Sanshi glanced at Jiang Nanan subconsciously, and Shui Lunshin turned around to face her at the same time. Her eyes instantly turned red, and she actually went down on her knees toward Jiang Nanan. Jiang Nanan was a soul Douluo. She reacted once she realized that something wasn't right, and she took a quick step forward as she supported Shui Lunshin. Jiang Nanan applied strength with her soft and malleable waist as she helped Shui Lunshin back on her feet. What are you doing, aunt? Jiang Nanan began to sweat on her forehead. Shui Lunshin sniffled and she said, please take my kowtow, child. I am doing this for the Doling Empire's millions of citizens, and I'm doing this for the future of the Doling Empire's royal family. I am begging you as the Doling Empire's princess. I promise you, aunt, please don't cry. Jiang Nanan had a kind heart, so how could she reject her in such a situation? Shui Lunshin was overjoyed as she grasped Jiang Nanan's hands tightly. You're such a good child. Thank you. Shu Sanshi sounded a little blue as he said, you guys haven't asked me for my opinion. I should have a say about my own son. Go away. Shui Lunshin snapped as she rolled her eyes at him. She pulled Jiang Nanan and stepped behind happily, and she no longer seemed sad at all. Nan Qiukai's eyes were wide open, and her jaws were slack as she stared at Shui Lunshin, whose grief had turned into bliss. She muttered under her breath, third senior brother, your mother must have been an actress, right? Nobody in the royal family is simple. I wonder how my father managed to win my mother over back then. Now, I understand a little about why my father has refused to come. Perhaps, if he's here, my mother will pressure him to make me change my surname. Ji Juogen was standing at one side, and he hadn't been talking at all, but he suddenly exclaimed out loud, be careful. Shu Sanshi reacted as soon as was possible, and light flashed on his body as he immediately switched positions with Nan Qiukai. His Swanwu shield instantly appeared in front of him. Ding. A crisp clang could be heard as sharp shards scattered in all directions, and the air was making sounds because it was being cut open. A black shadow glimmered into view immediately afterward. There was a short dagger in this black shadow's hands, and the entire dagger was dark purple as it radiated chilly light. The black shadow shifted slightly when he missed, and he immediately moved away from the front of Shu Sanshi's Swanwu shield and arrived at his flank before he stabbed out once more. The black shadow was as fast as lightning. Even though Shu Sanshi was barely able to defend against the shadow's first attack in the nick of time, he realized to his surprise that his Swanwu shield's defensive capabilities weren't able to completely dissolve his opponent's attacking force. Part of the dagger's sharpness went through his shield and into his arms' passageways, and he could feel intense throbbing pain in his arms. If his soul power wasn't formidable enough, he would have been severely injured with that one hit. Such formidable attacking strength. He should be an agility type soul master. No, more precisely, he should be an agility type titled Douluo. With his current defensive capabilities, even agility type soul masters who were adept at offensive attacks couldn't directly break through his Swanwu shield's defenses with a simple attack like that. His opponent had to be a titled Douluo at the very least to achieve that. Shu Sanshi's body immediately shone with faint golden light, and the golden light turned into darkness as it rippled outward. It seemed like dark golden liquid as it encompassed the space all around him. Shu Sanshi's sixth soul skill, Swanwu domain. Shu Sanshi had a lot of experience in battle, and he used his domain type ability as soon as he realized something was wrong. Shu Sanshi's Swanwu domain meant the assassin's speed would undoubtedly be heavily restricted. The three others responded as Shu Sanshi unleashed his domain. The judgment sword appeared in Ji Juogen's hands. However, he didn't move as he just stood there, and a single wave of sinister sword intent directly locked onto that assassin. The four of them weren't afraid of even a titled Douluo with their cultivation. In the name of holiness, a clear voice rang out as a beam of golden light surged into the sky and covered the entire hall. Shadows and silhouettes appeared one after another as golden light shone upon them, and three pairs of white wings stretched out behind Yidu's back. A six-winged angel. Yes, the person with the highest cultivation among the four of them wasn't Ji Juogen or Shu Sanshi. They were still a step away from becoming titled Douluo, so Yidu was the strongest one. Yidu went into closed-door cultivation after she had purified large amounts of avenging spirits, and she finally broke through and became another of the Tang Sect's titled Douluo. Yidu unleashed her holy light, and all kinds of concealing abilities were dispelled. Shu Sanshi used Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track. Even though he wasn't as quick as his opponent was, Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track's mystical and profound qualities enabled him to avoid his opponent's attacks that came in quick succession. His Swanwu shield transformed into countless shield shadows that protected him at the same time, so that the assassin couldn't find a target. The assassin was also very experienced in battle. He could tell that he had lost his chance, and he could also feel the crazy sword intent coming from Ji Juogen's body, so he chose to retreat as soon as was possible so that he could rendezvous with his own people. The royal palace was entirely silent in this moment. Holy light shone on everyone, and more than 20 people emerged from the shadows. They swiftly dispersed and surrounded Shu Sanshi and the three others. Soul rings were glowing radiantly, and there were actually 4 titled Douluo among these 20 people, while the rest were soul Douluo, and only 2 of them seemed relatively weaker. One was a middle-aged man who looked a little over 40, and he was a soul sage. There was another youth who wore a chilly expression on his face, and he seemed like he was roughly 30 years old. He was a 6-ring soul emperor. Shu Sanshi's facial muscles twitched as he glanced at Nan Qiukai, who wasn't far from him. Assassination. 2 figures swiftly returned from behind the hall. Wasn't that Jiang Nanan and Shui Lunshin? Over 10 people surged in behind them, and there was a titled Douluo at the helm, while the rest were also soul Douluo and soul sages. Shu Sanshi and the others were surrounded. The youth with the chilly look on his face laughed coldly and said, don't even try running away or asking for reinforcements, because that's almost impossible. This lonely palace has no other survivors except for the few of you. We've already dealt with all your personal guards. We have used Class 8 soul tools purchased from the Sun Moon Empire to isolate this place, so not a single sound will travel out even if an epic battle occurs. Shu Sanshi stared coldly at the youth before him as he lowered his voice and said, are you Shui Lang and Shui Kui? The youth laughed out loud, and his laughter was overflowing with arrogance. I am Prince Shui Lang, and this is Duke Shui Kui. You must be surprised that we have teamed up. He pointed at the middle-aged man beside him as he spoke. Shui Lang, Shui Kui. Seems like you've planned this from the start, haven't you? Shu Sanshi's eyes turned to Shui Kui as he spoke. Shui Kui's physical appearance was average. He was the type who wouldn't attract any attention at all in a throng of people, and he even seemed a little dull. But who would have expected a middle-aged man like that to be a murderous monster? He was the one who had ravaged any city and the city's defensive forces that he had come across on his journey. The Lord of Luo Province, Shui Kui. Shui Lang was the Lord of Tianhe Province. Shui Lang's title was higher. His ancestors had once contributed greatly to the Doling Empire a long time ago. Back when the Heaven Do Empire had separated into the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Doling Empire, Shui Lang's ancestors had helped the Doling Empire's royal family successfully escape from the clutches and pursuit of the Heavenly Soul Empire's royal family. The Doling Empire's royal family had eventually succeeded in establishing their own empire, and only then were his ancestors bestowed with a hereditary dukedom. Shui Lang's family was considered relatively noble in the Doling Empire. Shui Kui's status was a lot lower, even though he was also a lord over a province. His title was Marquis. They had separately mustered their armies within their territories, and they raced to Doling City in the name of coming to the Emperor's aid. Shui Lang showed a lot of restraint along the way, and he wouldn't do anything cruel to anyone unless his opponents attacked him first. Shui Kui was the complete opposite, and he reigned hell in every city he came across. The Doling Empire's inner regions were already empty, and his province's military forces were all strong and elite. They naturally swept over everyone in their path. Shui Lang and Shui Kui were clearly vying for the throne, but who would have thought that they would form an alliance? Furthermore, they seemed very familiar to each other, and even their appearances looked similar. Shui Kui lowered his voice and said, Shu Sanshi, your mistake was mixing yourself into this mess. Shui Lang would have been emperor a long time ago if you hadn't been here. Today is the day you die. Shu Sanshi stared at him coldly and said, I don't understand why you're willing to ruin your own reputation. Why would you do that? Aren't you coveting the throne? Shui Kui laughed coldly and replied, you're about to die, so I don't mind telling you. Shui Lang is actually my son. Back when I was traveling the provinces all those years ago, I accidentally acquainted myself with a lady who happened to be the wife of the previous Tianhe Duke. There's no need for me to tell you what happens next, right? As for why I have chosen to pillage and murder, I'm doing that to contrast against my son. A red flower will become even more gorgeous with green leaves complementing it, don't you think? Shui Kui no longer had to speak. Shui Lunshin was fuming with rage, and she was so furious that she couldn't speak at all. You've already planned this a long time ago. Shu Sanshi lowered his voice as he spoke. Shui Kui smiled plainly and said, the Sun Moon Empire's war god empress has already promised us that, as long as she rules over the empire, the Douluo Empire will avoid imminent calamity as long as we submit to the Sun Moon Empire and become their vassal state. That is undoubtedly the best choice at a time like this. Stubborn resistance is meaningless. The Sun Moon Empire is too powerful. We can't fight against them at all. We're doing this for the good of the empire. Shui Lunshin raised her voice. Those two Soul Engineer legions that ambushed the capital, were you the ones who let them in? You don't have to splash that dirty water on us. Shui Kui replied coldly. We will never admit that. That happened only because the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineer legions are too powerful. On the other hand, it happened also because the previous royal family was too weak. Now, everything is about to end. It's great that you're here, Shui Lunshin, because you and your son are the only remaining direct descendants of the royal family. Both of you shall die here today, and nobody will be able to stop my son from ascending to the throne after this. Shui Ling grunted coldly and said, why are we still wasting our breath on them? Go, I want them dead. He took a step back as he spoke. Shui Kui, who seemed like he was 40 years old when he was actually almost 60, shifted backward at the same time. They had planned this for a long time, and they had finally arrived at the time when they would reap what they had sown. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.